Wednesday, 20 July 2022. In this Skidmark, I'm going to talk about President Putin's visit to Iran. On Monday, it was reported Putin heads to Iran for talks with Iranian and Turkish leaders. Russian President Vladimir Putin is scheduled to arrive in Tehran Tuesday for Astana peace process trilateral talks with the Turkish and Iranian counterparts, Recep Erdogan and Ibrahim Raisi. You can pause it if you want to read the whole article. Okay, that was his trip to Iran. Now, the Iranian thing is a little bit of a complicated thing in that area because Iran is totally isolated from the world by the Western sanctions, and the economy obviously struggles. But in recent times we have seen that Iran is busy with upgrading the Venezuela oil refineries, and there was lots of talk about trade deals between Iran and Russia. And there's also talks that Iran wants to join BRICS. Now, President Putin has made it clear that this thing of the West dictating to the world with who they may trade and who they may not trade and all of that, that is no longer going to work. And Russia, being hammered by Western sanctions, actively started breaking down that stranglehold that the West has on the rest of the world. And there was a massive deal done, billions of dollars deal done between Iran and Gazprom, the oil and gas deal. And there's also talks of a serious weapons deal. And there's also the story of Iran supplying drones to Russia. Now, in those talks there, the things that were discussed, well, we wouldn't know what was everything that was discussed, but some of the points that were discussed was the situation in Syria. Now, Turkey has made noises that they want to invade Syria again, and I'm sure the Russians are not very happy with that. And Russia seems to me that they want to get that Syrian thing sorted out now, because Syria is suffering big time. This morning I saw an article where President Putin indicated that all foreign troops must pull out of Syria. I saw this now on my Twitter feed. In conclusion of his working visit to Iran, Putin answered questions from the media. Excerpts. All of us believe that US troops should leave Syria. This is the first point. And they should stop looting the Syrian state, the Syrian people, taking their oil illegally. Now, this is important what he says here. I think what is happening is that Russia is slowly but surely going to start opposing the US in its adventures around the world. And I think that Syria might be the first spot where Russia is going to try and test its strength on the diplomatic level. Because for years, the US got away with this bullying all over the world and terrorizing nations and terrorizing countries and bombing them to pieces and crippling their economies and to threaten them to follow the rules laid down by America. And Putin is not going to play that game anymore. I think we are living in dangerous times. I don't think so in Israeli dangerous times. And I think it will be wise for the Americans to make sure that they don't accidentally start a major conflict with Russia over something stupid in Syria. Second point. We would facilitate the Ukrainian grain exports provided all the restrictions on the potential exports of Russian grain are lifted. This is what we initially agreed upon with international organizations. Now, once again, I just want to stress, those sanctions that the West has placed on Russia is making it very difficult for countries to buy grain from Russia and to buy fertilizer. Because they say now that they don't sanction grain and fertilizer. But the sanctions on the financial systems makes it impossible for countries to pay Russia, and sanctions on transport makes it impossible for the countries that buy to get the grain delivered or the fertilizer delivered to their countries. These US sanctions is absolute madness, and it will be a good thing to stop it before Europe is bankrupt. Then the third point, the European countries, are big experts on non-traditional relations, and they have also decided to make a bid for non-traditional energy sources like the sun and wind. Last winter was long, there was no wind, and that did it. And I have to laugh because that Green Deal is seriously collapsing in Europe. I mean, they're falling back on coal. And I personally have got nothing against coal. I personally believe that coal is the only really reliable way for most countries to use. But it must be like a red-hot poker going through some people's backsides when they see Europe is restarting their coal-fired plants. And I like the way that Putin states it. I like the guy's sense of humor. And this is classic. Last winter was long, there was no wind, and that did it. And then the final point. Gazprom has always fulfilled and will always fulfill all of its obligations as long as, of course, anyone needs it. First, they themselves close everything, and then they look for someone to blame. It would be comical if it were not so sad. True Putin. And I like it. This is the truth that he is saying here. And many guys has debated the point on why don't Russia shut the gas down. And then I've read a few articles, and one of the articles it was clearly stated that Putin was very clear from the word go that Russia must be seen as a reliable supplier. And Russia will not stop supplies. Russia won't stop the supplies. But that clever monkeys there in the EU, those idiots sitting in Brussels under influence of Ursula von der Crazy, as Alex says so frequently. That girl was dedicated to destroying the European economy. And she was relentless with the sanctions. I see they're working now apparently on a package number 7. And one of the things that they are trying to one of the things they're planning to sanction is a Moscow motorcycle club. Gee, give me a break. How desperate are they? And all it will take to make all of this go away is for them to get on a plane, fly to Moscow, sit in front of Putin and say, sorry, we screwed up. How can we fix this? And then shut up and listen. Have a great evening. Oh yes, like, subscribe, share. Thank you.